I'm gonna give you guys a few tips on some things we can do to have a happier life. And the first thing is sometimes when we're not happy, we're too focused on the past, right? A lot of times you hear people say things like, if I knew what I know now, I would have done X, Y, and Z. And the thing about that statement is that it's true. Like, if you did know what you know now, you probably would have changed some things. But who you were in the past did not know the things that you do right now, right? So it's like you can't judge your past self for not knowing what you know now. You have to trust that when you were younger, you did the best that you could with the information that was available to you at that time. And the experiences that you had in the past have kind of gained you up to where you're at right now. So it's like those experiences were necessary for you to be who you currently are. The next thing is that dwelling on the past will not get you anywhere, right? You need to decide what it is that you want now and start taking steps towards that. And know that throughout life, your wants and desires are going to change. There was a point in time that I thought I wanted to be a social worker. There's a point in time I thought I wanted to be a teacher. And I went to school for both of those things. I've been teaching for 6 years, and now I've decided that I want to be a life coach. And I can judge myself and be like, dang, like you should have knew that you wanted to be a life coach, and like we didn't have to waste all that time and money in school and blah, blah, blah. But the truth is, I don't actually know if that's true. Like, who's to say if I went into life coaching when I was younger that I wouldn't have looked back and been like, you should have went to school for teaching, like you should have got a 9 to 5, you should have got a job with benefits and security. I actually don't know, right? But I do know that through experience and what I've experienced, I've learned a lot, I've met a lot of people, and I now know what it is that I want to do for this moment in time. Another tip is just to let go of things that you can't or couldn't control and focus on the things that you can control now. So a couple examples would be you couldn't control what kind of parents you had or what kind of upbringing you had, but you can control how you treat yourself now, or if you are planning to have a family in the future, you can control that environment and how you want it to be. Maybe you can give it everything that you felt was missing from your upbringing. If you are unhappy with your past decisions, you can't change that. There's no control over that. It's in the past. But you can control what you do right now. You can make sure that the actions you take now affect your present and your future. Letting go of things that we can't control and focusing on things that we can control also apply to day-to-day things. Like, we can't control the weather, right? But we can control our actions and attitude towards it. You can't control what's going on in the world, like as far as the wars, but maybe you can donate some money to support, or you can choose not to watch the news. And I know that's a bit controversial. I think it's good to stay up on current events, but I don't feel that it's healthy to constantly consume something negative and there's nothing you can actually do about it. It just leaves you feeling helpless and gives you a negative view of the world overall. There's news stations that put out positive news every day that show all the good that's going on in the world, but people don't really consume those too often. So what you can consume can affect your perception of the world and your overall mood. So you might want to switch that up. The next tip is just to avoid blaming others for your lack of joy. A lot of times our experiences come from our own thoughts. Like, you create your reality with your thoughts. And I know to a lot of people that might sound like a little woo-woo or whatever, but it's really true. Like, if you believe that you're a victim, you're gonna find yourself in a whole bunch of victimizing situations. If you believe people are constantly out to get you, you're gonna find situations throughout your day that match that. It's kind of like, have you ever had a loved one get a new car, or someone you know get a new car, and it's like you never really saw that car or noticed it until they got it. And now that that person got it, when you're out on the road, you start seeing it everywhere. And it's not that that car just like randomly started popping up just because your friend bought it. That car was always there. You just never noticed it. You're noticing it more now because you know that your friend has it. And it's the same with our thoughts. If we are already thinking something about ourselves, like believing we're a victim, we're gonna find situations throughout the day that match that. But if you had better thoughts about yourself, if you believe that you were like a powerful person or whatever, you're gonna find things throughout the day that affirm that. So changing your thoughts can change your reality. And also sometimes our thoughts aren't true. Like I've definitely had thoughts that led me down a rabbit hole that was completely false. I'll give you an example. So I work at a school, and every now and then for lunch I would forget my fork, and I would go to the cafeteria and get one of the forks that would usually be passed out to the kids, a little plastic fork. So they moved the forks to behind the counter to now where you had to ask someone who worked in the cafeteria for a fork. So I went in there, I asked for a fork, and the lady said no. And I was like, I don't think she heard me right. So I asked her again, I said, no, can I have a fork, And she said no. And that made me so mad. And I took it really personally. I'm like, wow, this lady is racist. Or like, I said all kind of stuff in my head, right? Took some time, cooled off, whatever. The next day I get to work, my coworker is talking to me, and she's like, do you know what happened yesterday when I was in the cafeteria? And she's like, they wouldn't let me get a fork. And I'm like, And so my coworker is white. So now I know, like, oh wow, it happened to her too. And then somebody else came in the staff lounge and said it happened to them too. And so I had completely convinced myself that this lady was like treating me some kind of way, being racist, whatever. But in actuality, she's probably just following orders from her superior who told her not to pass out forks to staff members anymore because they're just for kids. And I took it personally. And people just do this throughout life. Like, there's situations that happen and they think it's a personal attack on them, and that might not be the case. So sometimes we have to like sit back and think about our thoughts and determine, like, do we know if this is true or not? And a lot of times the answer is no. Another thing that keeps us from being happy is letting our fears stop us from living. A lot of times we make excuses as to why we should not start something. We'll say like, oh, I'm gonna wait until summertime, or I'm gonna wait until this happens or that happens. And the truth is, there's no such thing as perfection. There's no such thing as the perfect time. The perfect time is now. Tomorrow isn't promised, and we should live our life as such. We need to start making decisions as if we don't have much time on this planet, because in actuality, like, yeah, we have time, but it goes by fast. You hear older people say it all the time, like, oh, it feels like it was just yesterday that this happened. And I feel like that now, even at this age. And the truth is, a lot of times if we knew what was on the other side of our fear, we would do it. Like, if someone came up to you and told you, like, hey, if you apply for this job, this is what's gonna happen. You're gonna make this much money. You're gonna meet this person. This is gonna happen. We would look at that and be like, oh, okay, I'll do it. And then we would do it. But because we don't know, we get in our heads and make up scenarios about what could happen. But in actuality, we just don't know. We need to step out on faith, take a chance, and the only way to make good changes is to step into the unknown. Otherwise, we'll stay stuck where we are. Earlier, I talked about the past, and another thing that can keep people unhappy is thinking about the future. Oftentimes, people think of where they want to be and end up unhappy. And a lot of people look at social media and see other people having the things that they desire, and it makes them even unhappier. So one tip would just be to kind of set some boundaries with social media. There's so many people I've known or know and have seen them on social media, and a lot of times the stuff you see is just not real. It's just a complete mismatch from what I'm seeing on this page and what I'm seeing in person, right? So there's that. And just know that staring at others is not gonna get you where you wanna be. Start working towards what it is that you want. Your circumstances will not change unless you change. Doing the same things will give you the same results. Thinking the same thoughts will keep you stuck in the same spot. Nothing is going to change unless you change. So you have to start imagining what it is that you want and then take action steps towards that. Sometimes the future, what we want in the future can be so big that it seems daunting to even start on it. But the distance from where you're at now to that future spot is always going to stay that far unless you start taking steps. I know this because it's also me at times. I still do this. But there was a time I would always say things to people like, oh, I want to learn Spanish. And I had said that for years. It would just randomly come up in conversation. I'd be like, oh yeah, you know, one day I want to take classes, or yeah, I'm going to start doing that one day. And like when I look back and think on it, if I had just did one word a month, I would know 12 by the end of the year. If I did one word a week, I would know 52 by the end of the year. If I did one word a day, I'd know 365. And maybe that doesn't seem like much, but it's a lot more than doing nothing, right? And it's the same with our bigger goal. We need to start taking little steps, and it'll help us feel like we've accomplished something instead of staying at zero. So, to close out, I'll leave you with a quote because I love quotes. And the quote is, "Yesterday is gone, tomorrow has yet to come. We only have today, so let us begin." So best of luck to you all on your journey with happiness. I hope this was helpful. Let me know in the comments if you found anything helpful. Thank you for watching.